There is something even deeper than realizing that nothing is happening to you. It is the recognition that nothing ever started. No beginning, no journey, no moment when you entered life, no point where you became a separate being who then had to return to truth. The idea that something began is the root illusion. Time creates the story, and the story creates the self. When time loosens, the self loosens with it. Notice how the mind always places truth somewhere else. It says awakening happened then or will happen later. It says there was a before and an after. But look directly. Where is the boundary? Where is the line that separates ignorance from clarity? You will not find it, because what you are has never moved from itself. Only attention moved, and even that movement was part of what appeared. This is why the deepest realization feels like remembering something that was never forgotten. There is no triumph here, no sense of achievement. In fact, achievement would imply someone gained something, but nothing was gained. Something false simply stopped being believed. Earlier, it felt like you were witnessing life. Then it felt like life was living itself. Now even that distinction softens. There is no witness, no life, no self, no process. Those are all conceptual markers used to orient the mind. What remains does not need orientation. This is where language begins to collapse entirely. Every word adds a center. Every description implies a perspective. But there is no perspective left to stand in. Experience does not unfold toward anything. It unfolds, full stop. In daily life, this can look strangely simple. You wake up and there is no sense of entering the day. The day is already happening. You speak and words come out, but there is no sense of choosing them. Choices happen, but no chooser is found. Movement occurs, but no mover appears. The body walks, the hands move, the eyes see. And yet there is no internal narrator saying, "I am doing this." This is not unconsciousness. It is clarity without reference. It is intelligence without ownership. The body-mind continues to function perfectly well, often better than before, because it is no longer interfered with by psychological commentary. Fear may arise as sensation, but it does not convert into a story. Pain may arise, but it does not turn into suffering. Thought may arise, but it does not crystallize into identity. At this depth, even non-duality dissolves. Earlier, there was a sense of not two. Now even that feels unnecessary. Two and one are ideas. Separation and unity are concepts. What is present does not need to define itself against anything. This is why the question, "Who am I?" eventually disappears. Not because it was answered, but because the question loses meaning. It assumes a knower and something to be known. But here, there is no knower separate from knowing, and no knowing separate from what is. There is also no fear of loss here. Loss requires ownership. It requires something to belong to someone. But when nothing is owned, nothing can be lost. Even death, when thought of, does not register as personal. It is simply another concept arising in the same space as everything else. There is no instinctive recoil, not because of belief in immortality, but because there is no one positioned to end. This is the point where trust becomes absolute, not as an attitude, but as an absence of doubt. Doubt needs a center. Doubt needs a someone who might be wrong. When that someone is not found, doubt has nowhere to land. Life becomes deeply intimate and completely impersonal at the same time. You feel everything more clearly, yet nothing is taken personally. Love is no longer an emotion directed toward an object. It is the absence of separation. Compassion is no longer an effort. It is the natural response of wholeness encountering itself in different forms. You may notice that teaching itself becomes strange here. There is nothing to teach. Nothing to transmit, nothing to protect. Words are used, but lightly, knowing they are only sounds pointing back to silence. There is no investment in being understood. Understanding is not required. The sense of being someone who arrived at truth dissolves completely. There is no story to tell, no awakening narrative to share. If someone asks what happened, there is no answer that feels honest, because nothing happened. This is the end of the path, not as a destination, but as a recognition that there was never a path. Seeking was part of the dream. Awakening was part of the dream. The dream ends not by waking up inside it, but by realizing there was never a sleeper. What remains is not emptiness. It is fullness without edges. Not presence as an experience, but presence as the absence of absence. Not awareness as something you have, but awareness as what cannot be separated from anything that appears. Breathing breathes. Hearing hears. Seeing sees. Living lives. No one is behind it. No one is ahead of it. No one is inside it. And in that, there is nothing left to resolve.